Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Cancer Support Community Central Ohio's Natural Living Workshop with community herbalist Lily Cunning. We are so thrilled that Lily presents this workshop once a month on different topics. Today, she's going to be talking about gut health is whole body health. Welcome, Lily.
Hello, everybody. So good to see you all. Let me go ahead and share my screen and get started. Here we go. Everybody see it? Okay,
Yes.
great. All right. So you may have heard this phrase before, gut health is whole body health. And I want to explain why that is true, anatomically speaking and physiologically speaking, as well as speak to some of the common problems we have in the United States with our digestive health, um, and what we can do about it. I'll end with some final recommendations, but let's go ahead and dive in. So currently, excuse me, Americans have all kinds of digestive, nutrition, and diet issues. The vast majority of Americans see weight loss as a health goal, and that is because of some aggressive marketing. That's not necessarily the case. And 25% of all doctor visits these days are because of gut issues. We obviously have something going wrong. We're either uh, inheriting terrible digestive tracts, or maybe we're doing some things that aren't good for our bodies. And so we're going to talk about that. Many people try lots of fad diets that they see on the internet or read about, and they do not work, and they're actually inherently unhealthy. We're going to talk about a couple of those, the more popular ones. Often they do more damage than good. So I kind of want to touch on what is solid nutrition as well, because when we give our bodies high quality fuel, it helps our bodies make high quality cells that are our bodies, right? If we want a healthy body, we need to eat healthy food. So, common dysfunctions that are around that you may have experienced yourself: gas and bloating, diarrhea or constipation, acid reflux, or even worse, GERD, which is chronic acid reflux that can lead to esophageal cancer, gallbladder attacks or gallstones, even bad breath can be a gut issue. And then there's this mysterious diagnosis, IBD or IBS, which means your doctor doesn't exactly know what's wrong with you, but they're going to give it this syndrome name. And there's a lot of symptom management that goes into a diagnosis of IBD or IBS, but it doesn't necessarily get to the root of the problem, which is one of my main critiques of modern biochemical medicine anyway, not getting to the root cause of things and only doing symptom management. I would love to hear from y'all in the chat if you've experienced any of these, or if there are other digestive dysfunctions that you currently experience, either directly from your treatment or just something that you've lived with or something completely separate. I would love to know, because I will work on addressing those as we go along. So, I talked about, modern medicine dealing with symptom management. And one of the most commonly prescribed drugs is a PPI, a proton pump inhibitor. It's those things that keep you from having acid reflux, right? They're over the counter. They're also prescribed versions. Americans spend $11 billion a year on these kind of drugs. That's a lot. And they have huge side effects. They were never actually approved primarily for long-term use. A lot of people start taking them and then they just keep taking them. Nobody tells them to stop taking them. No one ever offers any other solutions to their acid reflux, but they cause liver and gut damage, stomach damage, and were never approved to be taken long-term. They are short-term symptom management is what they were approved for. And yet I have clients who've been on PPIs for 5, 10 years, taking them every day. So just to put it out there, those are actually not meant for long-term use. And if you are currently using these, there are alternatives. It does require some work. As with all holistic Remedies, it requires lifestyle changes in addition to supplementation. It's not as easy as popping a pill, um, which is why less people do that kind of work, but it is better for you in the long run. And I don't want you to damage your liver. GERD is very prevalent in the United States. It's estimated that up to 25% of the population has GERD. That is huge. One in four people, like that is a lot, and it's more than any other country. And I have speculations as to why, and I will get into them. But 25% of all primary care visits are related in some way to GERD and acid reflux. And this is a 46% increase in the last 5 years. So something is wrong. Something is wrong, and I would venture to say that something is wrong with our food supply, but also with our lifestyles in the United States. Um, so we can talk about that. And then some major dysfunction. Crohn's and ulcerative colitis are autoimmune diseases that attack the digestive tract. And I kind of want to just spell out what autoimmune disease is to a holistic practitioner. Because, if you're watching TV and you see all of the prescription commercials that are specifically for plaque psoriasis or specifically for Crohn's or whatever, you would think that these are completely unrelated um, disorders, but they're not. They're the same disorder attacking different parts of the body. And the way that drugs are approved in the United States is you have to show that it does a specific thing in a specific pathway to a specific system. So you get drugs that are approved for plaque psoriasis, right? Because it helps to alleviate the symptoms of the skin. But the fact is that autoimmune disease is autoimmune disease. And holistic practitioners have protocols that work on the root causes of autoimmune disease. And we also do symptom management because the symptoms are very uncomfortable and unpleasant. Um, but that's not all we do, right? And a holistic practitioner would never tell you to go onto immunosuppressants, suppress your own immune system, because most of your immune cells involved in autoimmune dysfunction are attacking that part of your body. We would never suppress your entire immune system to get you know um, the end results. We approach it differently. We do symptom management, but we also look for the root causes of autoimmune dysfunction. And I feel like I've been fairly successful in working with folks with autoimmune, um, to get to those root causes. And if you're interested, I will speak further to it. We also have a lot of gallstones and bladder attacks in the United States. It's not common in other parts of the world. And the gallbladder is a hollow organ. It functions in conjunction with your liver. Your liver produces bile. And your gallbladder's function is to release bile in a timed way so that you can dissolve fats in the diet, break them down so that your body can process them. Now, we have so much gallbladder dysfunction in the United States. People are getting their gallbladders removed, like an entire organ removed from your body because it's not working properly. So if you think about what the gallbladder does, and if it is spasming painfully, or if it's accumulating these stones, what that means is your liver is also implicated as a problem in releasing bile, in producing bile, in storing these stones, these aggregate waste products um, that are in the bile. Your liver is having problems processing what is coming into the digestive system. And it's calcifying, or not necessarily calcifying, but creating these hard stones which don't belong there in order to try and contain them. to try and deal with the waste products that are accumulating. It's like if your garbage collector stopped coming. You're still producing garbage, right? You need to get rid of it. You put it out at the curb and it just keeps piling up and piling up. Nobody's taking it away. Well, um, when you overwhelm your systems with too much waste, too much problems, sometimes they can't cope with it all. Sometimes it's too much. Um, so let's talk about some of the things that, I've said, the American lifestyle, the American diet. Let's talk about what I'm talking about here. Um, Number one, the entire center aisles of the grocery store, right? The things in bags, in boxes, in cans, in frozen, all of that happens to be a problem. All of those highly processed foods, what in other countries are called ultra processed foods, they contain not food in your food, right? There are all kinds of preservatives, stabilizers, fungicides, uh, things to keep your stuff from sticking together, in an unpleasant way. Like uh, there are so many chemicals in those foods in the middle aisles, and many of the same types of products have a completely different ingredient list in other countries because a lot of those things are banned in other countries. And there are warning labels on ultra processed foods in other countries. Here we just, oh, it's food. I'm going to put it in my cart. In other countries, they're like, this whole aisle is red flagged. It is a treat. It is not something you should be eating regularly. Like people are warned. Um, so there's all kinds of chemicals in there to make it more palatable or to keep it from spoiling because we have an industrialized food system that it takes months, if not a year, for it to get from the manufacturer to your plate. So in the meantime, everything needs to be preserved and made to look like it's fresh, even though it's not. Um, and we've got not food in your food. Ingredients like cellulose, things that your body cannot actually process. We do not have the enzymes. Our particular animal selves do not have the enzymes to break down cellulose. But I will tell you, anytime you buy shredded or powdered cheese, you're ingesting cellulose in large quantities, and your body has no way of breaking it down. No way at all. Now, if you have a healthy gut and a strong gut, you'll probably just pass it through. But people that have impaired digestive tracts or digestive tracts that are in peril, it has nowhere to go, right? It doesn't pass through as well. So, we need to, as consumers, do a few things to change how we eat. We also need to demand that our government protect us the way that other governments protect them. Um, Eliminate chemicals that should not be in our food completely. Make it mandated that things are fresher coming to the store, that instead of best buy dates, we have true expirations, and that we have a time frame of when something leaves the farm to when it gets to our grocery store. Like, let's make those mandated. Other countries have done it. It's not impossible. Um, it's just that our country tends to favor what corporations would like rather than what is safe for consumers. Um, but let's get to our lifestyle changes coming up in the thing. I also wanted to circle back to what's not a problem. BMI is not really a scientific term. I know that most doctors still use it. It's just a ratio and it's not based on anything. It was created in the 19th century by someone who had a semester of nutrition. It doesn't take into account any biodiversity at all, or it's not linked to any actual metric of health. If your doctor talks to you about BMI, I've got an article for them to read. In fact, I have a whole book for them to read, and it's called Health at Every Size. And it's by a doctor. So, I will send some of the chapters along with the article about PPIs when I send it to Darlene. I'll send this slideshow. I will send some excerpts from that book, and I will send an article about getting off of PPIs. Um, Being fat is not really a problem as long as your other metrics of health are fine. Your blood pressure, your pancreas is working, your blood sugar levels, like all of those, as long as your blood mobile is functioning properly, you can be healthy and fat. I just want to put that out there. Okay, moving along. Um, there are entire industries built upon making you feel bad about your body. The diet industry is one of them. So is the fashion industry, the magazine industry, and the clothing industry. I just want to put it out there that we have been marketed to in a way that is not scientifically accurate, and it's not cool. Start loving your body and nourishing it not because you want to lose weight, nourishing it because you want to be strong and healthy. Your body is not flawed. So let's talk about these fad diets, starting with keto. Keto. The ketogenic diet was designed and created for people with seizure disorders, people who have central nervous system disorders. They have seizures. It was meant to help people avoid having grand mal seizures. It is not there to help people lose weight. That is a sometimes side effect, but it is not meant for long term. People who are prescribed a ketogenic diet for their seizure disorder, they go on it, they go off it, they go on it, they go off it, because the people that actually prescribe these know that you're not getting all your nutrients. You're not feeding your body by eating keto. The name of the diet is named after ketosis, which is a state that your body enters when it feels as if it's being starved. That's not a good thing. I'm just putting it out there. Ketosis is like a little version of ketoacidosis, which is a state that mostly diabetics go into when their diet has been not nourishing, and it can actually put you in a coma. Um, this is not something to strive for. I wish for all of you to love your bodies and see how they serve you and not hate your body so much that you're willing to starve them of nutrients. Um, but yeah, so with keto, people do this because they think they're going to lose weight by eating high levels of protein, high levels of fat, and some vegetables. You pretty much eliminate carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. Carbohydrates are the base of what your body uses as fuel every day. You need carbohydrates. Now, the quality of the carbohydrate matters, right? Don't eat donuts. you know, Not to pick on donuts. Eat donuts occasionally, but not as your main carbohydrate, right? How about some whole grains? Those kind of carbohydrates are really good for you, and you need them, especially for your brain. You end up getting highly fatigued, almost like you have the flu if you stay on this diet. They call it the keto flu. You can get kidney stones, which are really painful and uncomfortable. You can also get vitamin and mineral deficiencies because you're not eating all the foods that you need to eat. And I'm going to say this now before we go on to the next fad diet. If your diet does not provide to you all of the nutrients that you need, the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, if it doesn't provide that, as it's too restrictive, it's not a good diet. Supplementation exists for people who are off balance, but your diet should be well balanced, right? They talk about eating the rainbow when it comes to vegetables, and that's important, but it's also important to balance out everything that you're eating overall, not just vitamins, not just vegetables and fruits. So my next diet, and this might get me in trouble with people, is the vegan diet. Um, Vegans are very outspoken about how their diet is morally superior and healthier. But I just need to tell you that it is not. Number one, there are serious nutrients that are missing from this diet on the regular. And again, if your diet does not provide to you the nutrients that the human body actually needs, then you need to reconsider that diet. You need to introduce things that will provide those nutrients. Um, it's also, I mean, it's not sustainable. You know, I know that a lot of people talk about a vegan diet to save the planet, um, but it's looking through a very narrow lens of saving the planet. So, for example, um, we raise more grain to feed cattle than to feed ourselves, and that the cattle cause high methane excretions that cause greenhouse gases. All of those things are true. But you know what it doesn't take into consideration is that the only reason we feed grain to cattle is because it's cheaper for big ag. They're supposed to eat grass. It gives them gas and bloating when they eat corn. Like they're not supposed to. It's not that raising beef is a problem. Raising beef in the quantities that we do, the way that we do it, is a problem. But that's not necessarily a problem with beef. I personally am not a huge beef fan. I don't eat a lot of it, but I need to put that out there because that is a very common trope that we see coming from vegans. I believe that factory farms and the way that we raise and slaughter animals for commercial use is often inhumane and awful. And the solution to that is know your farmer. Buy small, eat less meat, because you're supposed to eat mostly plants. We'll talk about that in a minute. Um, but that doesn't mean that you don't need the heme iron and the B12 that are only available in animal products, whether that's eggs, dairy, or meat. You need those things. Um, and it's not necessarily healthier. Number one, veganism is often an overlay for an eating disorder that happens a lot, particularly with women. Number two, uh, it is documented by PLOS, which is an open source science journal, that vegetarians and vegans have higher incidences of all kinds of medical issues. They are not healthier because they are, starving themselves in a way. So, apologies if I offended any vegans here, but I did need to put that out there. Um, let's briefly talk about a couple more fad diets. There's the pH diet. Oh, we need to alkalinize our bodies. And paleo, which is supposed to be the ancestral way that we all ate, and intermittent fasting. Um, it's all quackery. So alkaline foods are healthy, yes, because mostly alkaline foods are plants. We need to eat more plants in the United States. We absolutely do. Michael Pollan, my favorite quote about eating is eat food, mostly plants, not too much, right? Great dietary advice. I love that. And if you haven't read any of Michael Pollan's books, he's a food writer. Fantastic, very poetic prose, lots of science, and just really lovely reads. Um, but the pH of your body does not change because you eat more alkaline food. That's not how the body works. But if you eat more alkaline food, you will be healthier because it's vegetables. But again, the weird, like, faux science is troublesome, right? Paleo is made up. It's not an ancestral diet. That's not how people ate. And it's also not healthy for the same reasons keto isn't healthy. Anything that eliminates carbohydrates is going to be a problem in the long run. And fasting should only be recommended for specific purposes by a professional. And you only should fast when everyone around you knows you're fasting and that you have a support network in place, because it can cause health problems. Your blood sugar could drop and you could faint and hit your head. There's any number of things that can happen. And fasting is not a way of being in the long term. I knew people that they wanted to feel better in their gut, or they wanted to lose weight. And so every third day they would fast. They would starve themselves every 3 days, and call it like, discipline and a regime, and they're handling it. But like they would eat like crap the other 2 days because they were starving themselves and not nourishing themselves every day. Um, so yeah, so I just wanted to address some of the diets that are out there that you should really avoid if you're looking to be healthy. But what is healthy? Let's talk about what is healthy. Because there's a lot of no's. Let's talk about the yeses. Um, so here's some pictures of some healthy food, delicious, healthy food. And on the right, we've got the Mediterranean diet. And you're going to get a copy of this. So if you can't read the little letters on the screen, you'll be able to blow it up. But the base of the Mediterranean diet, if you look at the pyramid, it goes daily, weekly, monthly, right? So it's not a 4 food groups every day kind of thing, the way that they've done in the United States, which, by the way, has been subject to big ag lobbying. Dairy wasn't even supposed to be on that My Plate, and it is now, because of lobbying efforts. And if our policies in the government that are supposed to be for human health end up becoming corporate interests, then how do we trust what we're getting? Like, I want real accurate information to be given to people, regardless of if it makes anybody any money. you know like, it's just it, yeah. All right, I think I've ranted enough, sorry. All right, so daily, the very bottom of the pyramid is non-refined cereals and products. So whole grain bread, whole grain pasta, brown rice, things like that. That is something that you eat every day. Those are the basis of your diet. All carbohydrates. Then fruits and vegetables layered on top of that. And you can see fruit is just a little smaller than vegetables, right? And contained in vegetables are all the greens. So not just, bell peppers, but also kale and chard and all of that stuff. So whole grains, fruits and vegetables, olive oil, right? And we don't cook with olive oil, we finish with olive oil, right? So when we're making hummus, we add olive oil in the hummus, and we're eating raw olive oil. It's not cooked. Um, it is your main lipid in this diet. And then dairy products, 2 servings daily. Isn't that interesting? Now, I would venture to guess that folks on the Mediterranean diet are probably eating yogurt as their main dairy product, not necessarily ice cream or drinking milk. Um, but and cheeses, right? Some cheeses in there. But then we go into weekly. And the first one that we see is fish, 5 to 6 servings weekly. So almost every day, fish, almost every day, not quite. Then poultry, 4 servings a week. Then olives, pulses, and nuts. Pulses are beans, like lentils and other kinds of beans. And then potatoes. Potatoes get its own category. I love that. Potatoes. And then eggs, 3 servings a week, and sweets, 3 servings a week. Sweets you can have more often than red meat in this diet. I just think that's hilarious, right? So 4 servings a month, once a week, you can have some red meat. How different is this than the American diet? How different is it, right? Um, I think about how I cook for my family, and I know all of this, right? So we eat more like this, but we still don't eat like this, right? So I have a diabetic in my family, and so I cover half of the plate with vegetables quarter of the plate with some kind of carbohydrate, and a quarter of the plate with protein. And that's typically how we eat our big meal of the day. Like people graze throughout the day. We're kind of on our own for breakfast and lunch and snacks or whatever. But the big meal that we all sit down together, that's how we eat. It's kind of like this, but not exactly, right? Um, but here's the thing. Once we've entered some kind of dysfunction like diabetes, you have to adjust how you eat, right? This is the diet plan for people that don't have a chronic disease. And this is the diet plan that you use to prevent chronic disease. If you have a chronic disease like diabetes, then you need to work out a diet with your doctor, right? One that works for your body. A holistic practitioner always works with the person in front of them, right? Their constitution, their underlying conditions, their symptom manifestation, as well as their health goals and where they want to move to. That's what a holistic practitioner does. Um, so we look at every person as an individual. Let's talk about some foods that you should actively seek out. So let's talk about probiotic foods. Now, probiotics are beneficial bacteria that you want in and on your body. And we don't just have them in the gut. I know a lot of people know about the probiotics that live in your gut to help you digest food. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But they're also on your skin, in your lungs, in your brain. We are truly a colony and not an individual. And we need to take care of that colony and make sure that it is balanced. And so there's different strains of bacteria that will help you. And different people have different strains in their body. And that can lead to some people being prone to anxiety or depression, and some people being prone to diabetes, and some people being prone to skin tags. Skin tags. Um, it's because of the colonies that we have and that we were passed and possibly never amended, right? So these foods all contain pre and probiotics. Prebiotics are things that feed your probiotics, keep them alive. Um, and these are some really delicious probiotic foods. I have to say, I love all of them, but natto. Natto's slimy and I don't like it, but it is very popular in Japan. It is fermented soybeans. They have this weird, like, sticky thread when you, no, thank you. But a lot of people love it. So give it a try, because I did try it. I'm always willing to try something once. Um, but yes, these are probiotic foods from all over the world. Um, and I would say that every week I have one, two, three, four, probably five of them. Yeah, on any given week. Because I don't want to take probiotic supplements because, first of all, they're very limited in the strains that are offered. And second of all, they're expensive. You only take it when you are imbalanced, right? When you need to take a supplement, it's because you need to restore balance. But these are foods that you can eat on the regular to maintain balance. And that's how you should think about it, right? Food maintains balance. Supplements are for when you are imbalanced. And I say this as an herbalist. I make supplements, right? Um, I want people not to have to take my supplement for the rest of their life. That's my goal. All right. Um, excuse me. It's very wet here and I'm very phlegmy. Um, I also mentioned fiber here. You're going to want to eat a diet high in fiber, which means eating fruits and vegetables, right? Or whole grains, because that is going to help you prevent a lot of chronic issues with your digestive tract, with organs in the digestive tract, and with endocrine disorders like diabetes. So let's talk about how probiotics, how your beneficial colony of bacteria not only help you digest food, but help you function neurologically. The gut brain axis, the HPA axis, actually is a constantly moving feedback loop between your brain and your gut. It helps your brain function optimally. It helps with focus. It also helps alleviate anxiety and depression. And that is because your nervous system and your gut are connected, right? Your gut is also connected to your immune system. 75 to 90% of your immune system lives in the gut, and your endocrine system. Your endocrine system is one of the regulatory systems, along with the nervous system, that rules everything in your body. Parts of your endocrine system are your thyroid, your pancreas, your reproductive organs, everything that happens in your body on an automatic way are either a product of your endocrine system or your nervous system. And most of that is housed in the gut. The gut is the first thing that is created in a living creature. When you look at development of humans, cats, chickens, the first thing that happens is the tube. The alimentary canal is created, and then everything branches off from the gut. Everything. Um, and gut health is whole body health because most of your regulatory systems are housed in your gut, right? Like that's how it is. So we need to, what the Ayurvedic practitioners call, build digestive fire. We need healthy, ongoing digestion that functions well for us to be healthy humans. This is so important. So I mentioned probiotics. That is one way that we do this. I mentioned healthy eating, a diet that um, nourishes your body and replenishes the vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that your body needs to function properly. That's another one. The next one is bitter. Bitter. Now, Americans hate bitter. They're like, oh, it's bitter. I don't like it. Right? Bitter is necessary. We have bitter receptors, not just on our tongue, but throughout the entire digestive tract. And guess what? In our lungs and our brain, too. I'm drinking bitter coffee right now. All right. So, bitter, these receptors that are throughout our body are stimulated when we ingest the bitter flavor. Now, coffee I mentioned is one of them, unless you make it cake in a cup. You just want to drink your coffee without a bunch of sugar in it. But there are other bitters too. Now, when I bring this up to Americans, they're like, they either don't know what's bitter or they confuse sour with bitter. Oh yeah, no, I eat pickles. That's not bitter. That's sour. Bitter is its own taste and it has its own receptors. And Americans do not eat enough bitter. There is not enough bitter foods or beverages in our culture to make sure that we ingest it regularly. And so, as an herbalist, the one product that I make, the very one that I think pretty much anyone I talk to could benefit from, is digestive bitters because they're not eating what they need to be eating. So this is where the bitter receptors that we have found so far live. It doesn't, this is the digestive tract. They're also in the brain and the lungs. We found them there. But let's talk about what they do, right? Because there are bitter receptors in your pancreas. When they're stimulated, the pancreas creates enzymes and insulin. There are bitter receptors in the small intestine, and when they're stimulated, nutrition extraction is optimized. There are bitter receptors in your liver. It stimulates the bile function. Same with the gallbladder. Basically, it normalizes the regular functions of those. So if you have an impaired digestive system, if you have gallbladder issues, where either your liver is overworked or your gallbladder isn't spitting out bile on the regular, try bitters. If you have prediabetes or diabetes and your pancreas is impaired, try bitters. And the more you take them, the more optimized your digestive tract becomes. Because, like I said, we're supposed to be eating and drinking bitter on the regular. It is something we're supposed to have all the time. So, like I said, it's the one thing I make. It replaces food that we're just not getting. Um, all of so I guess I'll talk a little bit about digestive bitters in particular. So bitter is a tonic. It is something that you take on the regular to stimulate proper functioning of your system. The digestive part of digestive bitters, it's a two-part formula, uh, help with all of the remedy stuff. Like, let's say it's Thanksgiving, right? And you've overindulged because Thanksgiving is an overindulgence holiday, right? You're feeling bloated, you just don't feel good, like you just did too much. Take some digestives, right? There's the digestive bitter formula. They help reduce gas and bloating, they help move things along, they are a remedy. So, digestive bitters is part remedy, part tonic, and it is the ultimate digestive system formula that I make. And anytime I talk to someone, I can guarantee they would be benefited from taking bitters because they're probably not ingesting bitter foods or cocktails. Other European countries, they have the bitter cocktails that they do in the afternoons every day. Lovely. What a lovely lifestyle. Just to have like a 2 hour lunch and take a bitter cocktail. That's what I want. I think that's what Kamala Harris should run on. That's what I think. Anyway, yeah, so bitters. So if you take away anything from this presentation, and we're going to get to Q&A very soon, I see that there are a couple, is that the gut is interconnected to a lot of your other regulatory systems. You need to optimize your digestion and your gut function in order to be a healthy person. I would like you to know what dysfunction looks like and how to fix it. So we talked a little bit about common dysfunctions, and I didn't see anything go into the chat there that I didn't already mention: gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. If you have these more than once a week, it's not situational. And you need to know that those things need to be addressed before they cascade into a larger problem. And I want you to know the things that are needed for optimum health. So we talked about a real nutrition-based diet. We talked about ignoring, marketing that tells you to hate your body. We talked about probiotics. We talked about fiber, and we talked about bitters, right? So my final recommendations for y'all before we get to Q&A is eating a whole food diet, a probiotic when you're imbalanced, which is not all the time. So the most common times we are imbalanced is if we get sick and we have diarrhea, we've kind of decimated that colony. We need to build it back up. If you've had anesthesia or antibiotics, that colony gets decimated by pharmaceuticals and needs to be built up. Most of the time, you do not need to take probiotics every day unless you have some chronic disorder that regularly decimates your colony. You should be eating fermented foods regularly and fermented with that haven't been cooked with all the probiotics killed in it, right? You could even make your own. Honestly, it's so easy. I make kombucha now. We make fermented, all kinds of stuff. We get like a big boon from our garden and we just lacto ferment the whole thing. Just add a salt to it and let it ferment. And then we have that food in the winter when we no longer have fresh food from the garden. Take a bitter tonic regularly, and you don't have to buy mine, but Haven Herbs makes one and it's easy. It's called Digestive Bitters. But take a bitter tonic regularly. Dig up the dandelions in your untreated lawn, right? Make those roots into a coffee substitute or cook with them. Burdock, which the Japanese call gobo, is a mild bitter, and you can put that in your stir fries. You can buy some Campari and make some Negronis and drink them on your 2 hour lunch in the middle of the day, right? Um, take bitters regularly. I often will buy like a really delicious cocktail bitter. And when you're in Columbus, you can go to Wylands. They have a whole display of artisanal bitters, cocktail bitters, not therapeutic bitters. But if you take it every day and you don't have problems, like cocktail bitters are great. You can just put them in sparkling water and drink them. It'll also get you used to that bitter taste that you need. The taste is important. Don't try and cover it up with sugar. The taste is important. Um, Regular sleep and exercise to maintain your metabolism. I know we didn't talk about it, but these are lifestyle changes that you need to address if you want a healthy gut. You need to get regular sleep that makes you feel rested, and you need to have regular movement because your metabolism is the thing that regulates your gut and how it functions, right? And if you're not doing those two things, you're going to have erratic digestion, which leads to problems. And caring for your emotional health. That probiotic gut brain axis is important, but not if you're constantly stressed out um, and spewing cortisol everywhere. Like a probiotic pill is not going to fix that, right? So, getting to the root causes of things, if you have stress or um, emotional problems, figure out what is at the root cause of those because that will help you become a healthy person. And that is the end of my presentation. I am here now to answer questions. We have some time. Great.
Okay, Lily. Yeah, we have quite a number of things in the chat. Um, it's, so, whoop, there we go. Trying to make it bigger. Okay. Um, so, Susan shared that she has acid reflux recently, and her dad had esophageal cancer as well. Darlene, you had put in SIBO and then LBS,
IBS, probably.
IBS.
SIBO and IBS. Yeah, SIBO is there's a whole protocol to take care of SIBO. If you are interested, we can work together. I've worked with other folks that have had that problem.
Yeah,
And IBS definitely is getting to the root cause, right? Trying to find the causes for your bowels being so irritated and inflamed, because inflammation is a symptom, right? Irritable bowel syndrome is a symptom. So, what is the root cause? That is what a holistic practitioner will do with you, whether it's me or anyone else, right? You can see an Ayurvedic practitioner, a Chinese practitioner, they're all holistic systems.
um, in addition to Susan's acid reflux, Christine has a hiatal hernia.
Yes, yeah, that can definitely impact, even though it's on the outside of the digestive tract, it does often push in and cause problems. Yeah,
And then Susan says she's tried not to take the PPI unless it gets bad. Christy would like an alternative to,
omeprazole.
oh, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that one.
Omeprazole.
It's OMEPRAZOLE.
Yes.
Okay.
So the way to avoid taking PPI is to have a daily routine that helps your gut, right? Implementing some of the strategies that I've talked about, the more you do them, the more regularly you do them, the less you're going to need that take a pill kind of stuff, right? Because you are tonifying your gut, you're strengthening your gut. Um, so I highly recommend reviewing the slideshow when you get it, and also the article on PPIs for some strategies on how to get it so that you don't have to take them anymore. And omeprazole is a PPI. So there are alternatives. And again, the first is lifestyle changes, diet, metabolism, all of that. But I would also highly recommend starting to take digestive bitters. Now, you take them at least twice a day, but the general protocol is you take them 15 minutes before a meal, right? It primes the pump. It gets all those receptors stimulated to receive the food. Um, and, 2 times a day is optimal. And you just take it on an ongoing basis. I keep mine in my dining room so that I don't forget. It's on the little lazy Susan on my table, right? There's a salt well, there's the bitters, there's the pepper grinder. So I highly recommend starting there. But if you have been on a while and would like case management, you can definitely reach out to me. In the slideshow, the icon there, the icon, the mirroring, is a link to both Haven Herbs and Lily Cunning Community Herbalist. You can just click on it, it'll take you to the website. Happy to help. I've done it before. Um, and eczema, interesting enough. So, eczema is usually a dietary issue. Eczema is usually the skin manifesting stagnation of the liver. The liver can't handle what is being put into it. And so it pushes out. The skin is the last organ of elimination. Eczema tends to be a dietary issue, and the most common culprit is dairy because most people do not have the chemical equipment to digest dairy products after infancy. There are a few of us. I am one of them. I have solid Northern European stock, and I do have that ability, but most people do not in the world. Most people do not. And I know Americans love their cheese. I know it. I love it too, but it's not good for everyone. Um, Let me see. What oil do you recommend for cooking? So it depends on what you're cooking, but the ones that we use in my house, we use organic tallow, which is a beef product. When I don't want to use dairy, because I do have some dairy sensitive folks in the house, we do use butter, just unsalted grass fed butter. Um, we also use grapeseed oil when we're doing some high heat stuff, like making popcorn or stir fries. Grapeseed has a very high smoke point. It's also a pressed oil. So I highly recommend knowing how your oil was created because the solvent extracted oils are not good for you. So canola is generally extracted using chemicals, but grapeseed is a pressed oil, as is olive, although cooking with olive is not recommended because of the low smoke point. Um, but yeah, pressed oils are better than solvent extracted oils. So do a little research. Like if you see one that looks good, don't necessarily believe the marketing, look it up, right? Right there in the grocery store aisle, you got your smartphone. Like ask Google, is such and such a brand of this oil solvent extracted or pressed? It'll tell you. Yay, Google. Um, yeah, so doing some research on everything. I know it's exhausting, but once you find the thing that you like and that it works for you, then that's the thing that you get. Um, Other than coffee, what are some bitter foods? So I mentioned different roots like dandelion and burdock and yellow dock, different cocktails. There are spirits, bitter spirits, usually herbs, bitter herbs, um, that you can add. Uh, Gentian is the most common bitter. It's a violet that's used in cocktail bitters. Bitter melon is something that is used in Chinese stir fries. There's a bunch of them. They're just not familiar to Americans. We don't have them in our produce departments, right? But you all in Columbus have Saraga. Saraga is a great international grocery. And honestly, there are a ton of bitter vegetables in there. They have gobo, burdock. They have bitter melon. They have a bunch of different things that I would try. Right? Maybe look up recipes while you're in the produce section. They've got a pretty nice produce section. Look up recipes like how do I use this? See if it sounds good. Um, yeah. Red dandelion growing, but wow, it is bitter. Just wait, I consider dandelion one of the sweeter sides of bitter. um, but The more you ingest it, the less extreme it's going to taste. And I promise you, especially if you're reacting really strongly to it in a negative way, the more you ingest bitter, the more it's going to become something that you crave, something that you like. Because your body all of a sudden is getting something it needs, and it's like, oh, I want more of that. That's something I want. Um, so definitely give it a shot. Fermented food kombucha recipe. Yeah, I could do that in the email. Maybe Darlene can forward it. But kombucha is the easiest thing in the world. You just have to obtain what's called a SCOBY, which is a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. SCOBY. Um, and you can get that from anyone who makes kombucha, or you can just buy a bottle of kombucha and use that last little tail end that's kind of cloudy to make your own SCOBY. Um, and it's traditionally a tea that is fermented, so you can use caffeinated or herbal. My favorite kombucha these days in the summer is hibiscus. You can buy hibiscus flowers at Saraga dried and make a hibiscus tea, which is tangy and tart and delicious. And you ferment that with your SCOBY over time, and you feed it some sugar, but the sugar is all going to be eaten by the colony, right? And in turn, it's going to ferment your kombucha for you. And then you strain it, and if you need to sweeten it, okay. You can also double ferment it and add after your tea uh, fermentation, you can add fruit. A lot of those kombuchas out there that are sold are double fermented because they have like fruity profiles to them. Like at the store that I we have blueberry lavender, strawberry rose, pineapple ginger, and prickly pear lemon. So like all of those are double fermented. They ferment the tea and then they take the tea and they put the fruit in it and create that fruit flavor and ferment it a second time. Um, yeah. But yes, I will put that in an email about kombucha. What exactly is in a bitter formula? Well, everybody has a different formula because there's so many different bitters out there. I wanted to make one that was pregnancy safe. So the one that I make is burdock, yellow dock, and dandelion root. That's the bitter part. And then the digestive part is cinnamon, cardamom, and orange peel. They're all extracted either into alcohol or vinegar. I make both kinds because some people have a prohibition on alcohol, and I wanted to make sure everybody could have bitter. So I make a alcoholic, which is the traditional, and I make a vinegar formula, which the vinegar extracts the bitter just as well. Um, so that's what's in my formula. But you can make all kinds. In fact, there are books out there that teach you about lots of different bitter formulas that you can make. One of them, another herbal company called Urban Moonshine, has a whole book on bitters that's really good. And then I have one that I picked up randomly at a bookstore, and it's coming from a cocktail perspective, but it talks about bitters and has different recipes. But I would definitely go to thrift books or, bookshop.org and, type in bitters because you're going to get all kinds of really cool books on how to make different bitters. With PPIs, you can do either stop cold turkey or gradually stop, but I do recommend adding things to help you overcome your symptoms while you are stopping, whether you decide to wean or whether you decide to stop cold turkey. Because your body is still stuck in that cycle of overproducing acid or um, you know, yeah, your body is stuck in that cycle and it's not just going to stop because you stop taking PPIs, right? So we need to deal with that root cause as you are stopping, either cold turkey or gradually. Do you take bitter straight? I do. Squirt it right in my mouth right before a meal. I enjoy bitters now. And so, like I said, sometimes I just put it in some bubbly water And that's what I'm drinking on a summer day. It's cooling, it's very nice. You do not have to refrigerate bitters, no. It's either extracted in alcohol or vinegar, both of which are shelf stable. Rapeseed oil, good for baking. Yeah, well, with all oils, they impart a certain flavor. So it's really a preference, you know? So I would try some of your recipes with a small bottle of grapeseed oil, see if you like it. Um, you know, we're creatures of habit, and sometimes people get used to a certain taste, and it takes a minute to either adjust to a new taste, or it might not be the right thing for that particular recipe. But there are other oils out there, pressed oils. um Grapefruit does count as a bitter, but only if you're eating the rind.
Oh,
Yeah. So grapefruit is obviously sour. Citrus is sour, the flesh of the grapefruit. Orange peel, grapefruit peel, lemon peel, those are all bitter. Yeah. Any other questions? I know we're a couple minutes over, but we started a couple minutes late, so I think I did okay. Um, but I did want to let you know that I am here to answer questions, um, and happy to do so. You can just reach out to me. Darlene will forward you my email. Um, and yeah, happy to be here as usual.
Well, Lily, we greatly appreciate you spending your time and your expertise with us. And she will be back on August the 27th, and she's going to be talking about getting started in herbalism. So thank you for the information today, Lily, and we greatly look forward to seeing you on August 27th at 9 a.m.
All right. Have a great one, everybody.